Thurswell law firm, and he is the founder. And, you know, if the name sounds familiar to you, it's because Attorney Thurswell has represented the families of Malice Green, Renisha McBride, Mackenzie Cochran. Someone mentioned Mackenzie Cochran the other day on this radio show. So as we talk about what's going on in Inkster and what should or should not happen, or what does the video mean, you can't have that kind of discussion without having Attorney Gerald Thurswell. Good evening, Counselor. How are you this evening?
How are you, Mildred?
I am good. You've got to tell me, and I've been telling my listeners, you're going to help us understand, for the most part, what the legal issues are here in this case based upon the video. There have been two videos now. The second one, I don't know if there's enough clarity, but on the first one, we see the beating and how he was stopped. And on the second video, we see, as reported on WDIV last night with Kevin Dietz, a police officer who looks like he may have taken a bag of something from his person and allegedly placed it in the car. Let's go with the first video first.
Well, the first video is blatantly clear that those officers pulled him out of the car and beat him and kicked him and choked him, and he was not resisting at all. I watched that video several times. This gentleman had his hand to cover his face. That's all he was doing, was covering his face. They kicked, they choked, and they beat him. And those officers should be prosecuted for assaulting him, for beating him. They should be punished. They should go to court. That's what should happen to them. On the other hand, what they did was they charged this driver, I think his name is Dent, they charged him with assault and resisting arrest. The judge, looking at the video, threw out resisting arrest and assault by Dent. Now what should happen is the prosecutor, based on an investigation that should occur with the Michigan State Police, should now prosecute those officers, each and every one of them. They all participated if you watch that video.
Attorney Thurswell, the chief of police in Inkster is saying they're conducting their investigation and they have asked the Michigan State Police to step in. Now, if you were representing Mr. Dent, and I don't understand the process, I know that there should be some contact with the prosecutor's office, or there should have been in a situation like this soon after this incident occurred. Would you be comfortable if Michigan State Police were on the scene when this occurred? Would you be comfortable with the Michigan State Police being the entity the outside entity that conducts the investigation?
Yeah, I would be. I'd be comfortable with them. I don't see. I've watched that video, and if your viewers have watched that video, Dent, this 57-year-old factory worker, all he did was he had his hand covering his face. He was not resisting. He was not moving. They were kicking, choking, beating him. That is reprehensible. Those officers should be charged criminally. Those officers. The other aspect on the case, and what I get involved in on a daily basis, I represent people who are the victims of police brutality. His lawyer, who I know, that lawyer should be filing a civil lawsuit against the police department and those officers for the injuries and the damages Dent sustained. Apparently, according to the news reports, he was in the hospital for a few days. He hasn't been able to return to work. I mean, he got the hell beat out of him.
Yes, he did.
Then there's the second aspect that you raised about the planting of evidence. They call that dropping of evidence. We see from the video that one officer had some kind of bag in his hand. It wasn't real clear if it was a plastic bag or whatever, but we do see a bag there. And then they charged Dent with possession of cocaine that was in a plastic bag. I don't know if it's the same bag. I don't know with high resolution if somebody can take that video and zoom in on that bag and then compare that bag to the bag that was found under Dent's seat. His attorney had said on TV yesterday that if you look at the bag under the seat and somebody examines it, you won't find Dent's fingerprints on it. You'll only find no fingerprints or the police officer's fingerprints. But you have to remember, it wasn't just the officer who planted that bag. There were 2 or 3 other officers there. They all participated in this setup. They were all together in beating him, all together in planting the evidence if the evidence was planted. That's a pretty horrible situation that that one of the officers couldn't step in and say, stop beating him, stop hitting him. Hey, it's wrong to plant evidence. You know, it's so reprehensible. It's outrageous.
Attorney Thurswell, tell me what your legal experience, and I'm not asking you to be a genie and pull something out of the bottle. What does your legal experience tell you about an individual who's 57 years old, who's spent 37 years working in an auto plant, does not have a criminal record, and I know there's a first time for everything, who also, once he's gone to the hospital, had no drugs, no alcohol, or anything in his system? What does your hunch tell you? I mean, what makes sense here, or what doesn't make sense?
Let's assume for a moment. Let's assume that the cocaine they found in Dent's car was his cocaine. Let's assume that, okay? Police officers are not the judge and the jury. They don't grab somebody, pull them out of the car, and beat them up, kick them, choke them. They don't do that. You arrest somebody, and you go in front of a judge or a jury, and you decide whether or not he is guilty, whether or not he did in fact have cocaine in his possession. But you don't beat somebody up when you arrest them. You handcuff them. You take them into custody. I mean, this is so outrageous. And thank God that there are videos. In my case against the security officers at Northland, when Mackenzie Cochran was beat up by the security guards, it's the same thing. Security guards, police officers, nobody has the right to be a judge and a jury. Mackenzie died. Thank God Dent is still alive. It's craziness now. Craziness.
You know, I have to tell you that I thought about Mackenzie Cochran when the Northland folk announced they were closing the mall. And of course, my first question is, oh my goodness, how does that affect the lawsuit?
It doesn't affect our case at all.
Great.
First of all, the people who held him down when he kept screaming out, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. These are security guards working for a private security guard company. So we're suing the security guards and the private security guard company. We are also suing Northland Mall. But the fact that they're closing up makes no difference at all. Both the security guard company and Northland, they both have large insurance policies.
Great.
Belinda and Warren, you're on the Mildred Gaddis Show with attorney Gerald Thurswell.
Mildred, hello, Mildred.
Hi.
And hi to your guest. Now, some more information has came out today. Those officers that was with the police on that when it happened, they're called auxiliary officers. They are not sworn-in officers, and they don't have the same training. Now, that tape, you should be able to get that tape, because how do you pronounce the police chief, Vicky, what is that,
Yoke.
Whatever. Mm-hmm. She made that statement, and it was on Channel 4 News today. So now, are they like the same officers that was at the mall? If they don't have the training. Now, the state police, she didn't mention them, but I'm pretty sure they did come on the scene. But they use these officers. They're not sworn. They're not trained.
But here's what we do know, Belinda, and I was going to ask Attorney Gerald Thurswell this. We do know that at least 3 of those officers, at minimum 2 of them, were sworn police officers.
That's right.
And they were the ones who were on Mr. Dent.
Right.
I appreciate that updated information, Belinda. Attorney Thurswell, one of the officers, well, as they used to say, and I said this the other day when we were kids about somebody being the ringleader of a little pack. Well, this guy who was a ringleader, who did the punching on the head for 16 times, was fired by the Detroit Police Department. and had been cited by the U.S. Justice Department for planting evidence on alleged defendants. There was a jury. There was some kind of trial, and he was not convicted. But it sounds like the same MO. The fact that Inkster hired someone with that kind of record is interesting within itself. But the fact that he was cited by the feds?
You know what also is very interesting? You put a uniform on these people, whether they're a security guard or whether they're a police officer, auxiliary, or whatever. You put a uniform on them. You give them the authority to arrest people. You give them, in the case of Dent here in Inkster, you give them guns. In the case of Mackenzie Cochran, you give them mace. You give them weapons. These people have to be trained. You can't put people, give them authority, give them uniforms, tell them to police and give security without proper training. You have to train them. Not only do you have to train them, but you better do some psychological testing on them before you put them in this position of power, because then they abuse the power. You watch that video of Dent. Watch that video again and again. I didn't see that guy move a muscle. He had one hand in front of his face. I didn't see him move at all. And why were they kicking him? Why were they choking him? Why were they tasering him? I don't see it in the video. Maybe the video isn't complete, but what I could see, there was no reason for that. None whatsoever.
You know, we've got to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this. We've got some people with some questions for you. Attorney Gerald Thurswell's number is 248-354-2222. You can reach the Thurswell Law Firm by calling 248-354-2222. And this may sound a little corny or whatever, but they're experts at this stuff. I mean, they are experts for victims people who are the victims of police brutality, and even in those unfortunate situations when lives are lost because of the way police and security behave. They do it. That number again is 248-354-2222, 248-354-2222. We'll be back with Attorney Gerald Thurswell right after this break, so stay with us. 354-2222, 248-354-2222. Stay with us. We're going to take your questions. Counsel, do you have a little more time for us?
I have all the time you want.
Oh, great. Every line we have is jammed. So let's talk about it, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Mildred Gaddis. My guest is Attorney Gerald E. Thurswell, founder of the Thurswell Law Firm, who has an extreme depth of knowledge and experience in civil litigation, malpractice, medical negligence, personal injury, and all of that stuff, as well as police brutality. Here in the city, he's represented the families of Mackenzie Cochran, Renisha McBride, Malice Green. And I mention those families because certainly those are a few of the many cases, but those are the ones who've been very, very public. You can reach him at 248-354-2222, 248-354-2222. We are now discussing the Floyd Dent situation in the city of Inkster. Michael in Chesterfield, thanks for checking in. What's your question or comment for Attorney Thurswell?
How you doing? I'm Mildred and Attorney Thurswell. And I want to really disagree with that caller who said that lawyers are in it for the money. The Constitution set up court systems so that when we are wrong, we have somewhere to go to get our wrong fixed. Now, since you're reporting, Mildred, that this police department knew this guy was a bad apple, and you usually have your facts pretty straight, then they should be forced to pay heavy expenses so that in the future they will think twice. And more police departments would think twice about hiring bad apples if you hit them in the pocketbook, because nothing motivates people like when they got to start cutting a check and dealing with heavy expenses. So that is part of the system. When you're wrong, someone should rightfully compensate you. And since nothing else has been a motivating factor, I think money may help us in our community if these people start being sued and have to pay heavy expenses.
Thanks so much for thanks for listening to the show, Michael. Good to hear from you.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye-bye. Brandon in Detroit, let's talk about it.
Hey, good evening, Mildred and attorney. I had a quick question about the city of Inkster being under consent agreement with the state of Michigan and how that impacts, the pursuit for social justice on behalf of mental debt, but also civil justice. Could it be that the state of Michigan may be forced to actually defend the city of Inkster and the police department in this aspect? And could that have been the reason why this has been kept under wraps for so long?
I don't think this is going to be kept under wraps. This is so. I mean, it's just public. The whole city. This is on national news. How Dent was kicked and beat and tasered. This is on national news. Nobody's going to shove this under the rug. Nobody's.
What he was talking about, Counselor, is that while most of us just learned about this, it didn't happen this week. It happened some time ago. And how far, and I'm not sure when. I don't think it was very long ago. But Kevin Dietz was able to get his hands. He found out about the story, investigated it, and then it appeared on WDIV.
That's very interesting because what may very well have happened is the lawyer who represents Floyd Dent, the lawyer who represents him, is entitled to get all the evidence that the city has. He's entitled to every piece of evidence. So the lawyer then would make a request of the prosecutor and of the police department for all their evidence. And maybe this video just surfaced in the last few days, and that's how it all became, to everybody's attention. Maybe that's why it came out, because it just was revealed to everybody. When I saw the TV coverage yesterday, the lawyer who represents Dent says that there's a third video that may show one of the officers going into the car and planting the cocaine in the plastic bag.
Yes,
I don't know if they really have that video, why it wasn't shown.
Well,
it wasn't given.
WDIV showed it last night, and I interviewed Kevin Dietz. By the way, guys, this incident occurred on January 28th.
Right, that's over 60 days, clearly.
Yeah, it occurred on January 28th. And good reporters have sources. And someone told Kevin Dietz about it, and someone got that video to Kevin Dietz. So, yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is that the attorney who represents Floyd Dent, your man gets charged. Apparently, everything, those assault charges and resisting arrest, those were dismissed. But the lawyer, I wonder when he got the video. You don't get it instantly. You don't get it in a week or 2 or 3. I just don't know when he got the video.
Got it.
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe when the assault charges and the resisting arrest charges were dismissed by the judge, and the judge saw the video. Maybe that's when some of the videos, surfaced. Just like that gentleman said, we need policemen. I don't want to be a police officer. I don't want to face the dangers that they do. But that small percentage of those officers who do wrong, they have to be punished and they have to be held accountable. They have to be.
Incredible. Just when you're trying to bounce back from one situation you're seeing that you find unbelievable, another one surfaces. This Inkster situation is, you're right, Attorney Thurswell, all over the country, around the world, people have been watching this video, trying to figure out what's the next move and what happens. Does it concern you with this clear video? And I understand that you can't violate people's employment rights, but does it bother you that this happened January 28th and we see how clearly in that first video what occurred, that the police officers are still on the job? They weren't even sent home with pay. They're still active police officers.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right at all. I thought that one of the officers was given a desk job. but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah. That's the main one. The one who was fired for allegedly planting evidence in Detroit, cited by the feds in that situation.
During the investigation, you see behavior like this. During the investigation, you can suspend people and continue their pay just in case they didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But do you want them to still be on the street with a uniform and a gun and tasers and handcuffs? Do you really want them out on the street when you demonstrate this kind of behavior? Until the investigation is complete, I would have hoped that the Inkster Police Department would have, put these officers on a leave of absence.
Right. That seems fitting and appropriate. Now, that seems fitting and appropriate because I think we all understand it's important that a thorough investigation be done, and if you're going to send somebody home, send them packing, we all know that legally you've got to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. But you can do that while they're at home, while you're trying to make some sense of it. Counselor, I want to thank you very much. I want to give the number to the law firm again. Attorney Gerald Thurswell, the Thurswell Law Firm, is 248-354-2222, 248-354-2222. Counselor, what do you want to leave our listeners with today?
Well, I think we should still all respect police officers and know that almost all of them do good, protect us, help us, and it's just such a small percentage. But God, when this occurs, whether there's a video there or not, you should go get a lawyer. If you get beat up and it's not justified, this guy wasn't resisting arrest at all. You should seek the advice of an attorney. It's just, we're talking about cases that I represented the Malice Green family, McBride, I represent Mackenzie Cochran. Those cases all resulted in a death. But so many people are paralyzed and get concussions and get beat up, and God forbid one of your loved ones is abused by the police or a security guard or any situation like that. You should contact the lawyer. Not necessarily me, but you should contact the lawyer because people have to be held accountable for their acts. They have to be held accountable. And like that gentleman said, when it comes out of your pocketbook, you're much more careful in the future.
All right, Attorney Thurswell. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Coming up next on the Mildred Gaddis Show, oh boy,